folks, welcome back. I am joined right now by Nick from Bomb Shelter Games, and Nick is going to tell us about Depths of Sanity. So, hi, Nick.
Hey, how's it going to you and everybody watching?
Excellent,
uh,
excellent.
Depths of Sanity is an underwater Metroidvania nightmare that we've been working on for by the time BostonFIG is happened about 4 years. Um, the basic premise is it takes place in the late 90s, and we use a actual real life event as kind of the catalyst. Late 90s, every oceanic organization across the world heard a unbelievably loud vibration at the bottom of the ocean that they didn't know what it was up until a year ago. So in our game, you play as Abe Douglas, who sent a team down to go investigate what the vibration was. They don't come back, and he makes it his responsibility to find out what happened to them and bring them home. And so all the levels of the game, it's a traditional Metroidvania with the exception of the fact that it is entirely underwater. All of the power-ups are underwater based, so there's no double jumps to save you, nothing like that. It's sonar, tow lines, lots of very dark, very creepy areas, and a lot of the stranger things that are underneath the sea trying to stop you on your way.
Very cool. That the concept for the game is so interesting. How did you come up with that?
So the team kept just trying. Originally, it was thinking about a Metroidvania that maybe we hadn't played before, or something like that, and prototyping on underwater things because our team has this suicidal need to try and make something out of like the element that people hate the most. Like very few game developers are going to go, all right, nobody likes water levels. Let's make our entire 12 to 15-hour game a water level and see if it's enjoyable. But eventually, we started making enough headway where we were like, all right, this is actually pretty interesting, and mechanically it's starting to work out. So let's start to see like what kind of story would work with this, what kinds of gameplay sequences would work, and it kind of slowly grew out from there.
That's amazing. So what was the noise that was under?
Uh,
You said that they figured it out last year.
so in real life, uh, just as scary but less interesting, it was a glacier cracking very, very below in its depths that were
Oh,
registered
wow.
through other things.
Totally different kind of existential horror, but
Yeah, yeah, basically. That'll be our hidden ending. It'll be like the dog ending from Silent Hill
it's
2.
got
Like the
like a
whole
little
thing
environmental
is
message. Yeah. And if you like this, save
yeah,
the
right.
planet. Oh my gosh. So is this your team's first game, 100th game, somewhere in between?
So for the team, this is their fourth. This is actually my first. I joined about midway through development.
Cool. Okay.
But this is the first for the entire team that's more than just PC. So it's going to be PC, Xbox, Switch, PS4 when I'm all
Amazing.
said and done.
Wow.
So
And you said you've been working on it for 4 years now.
yeah.
That's
So
incredible. So what's the team like?
in terms of,
Oh, composition of the team.
I was going to say we're all just very depressed and composition. So I'm actually the writer for the game, but we also have a lead animator, a lead designer, a secondary designer who helps a lot with the programming, particularly around like the different ports we're doing. We're kind of the core team, and then we have a couple people shuffle on and off for music, sound effects, and things of that nature.
Awesome.
So seven at the most, I would
That's
say.
excellent. How did you all find each other?
So a majority of the team are like childhood friends who are always into games, and as they kind of as college kind of brought everybody pretty far away, they started making really small things, just kind of keep in touch with each other. I joined the team because I'm actually very good friends with one of them. We went to college together, and we started keeping in touch, and then eventually as this game was going, I previously did like a lot of like playwriting and like had like shows like that go up. And he was like, "All right, we're working on this horror thing. You're the horror guy. I think you'd be a good fit for it. You want to join?" So that's kind of how I got involved.
That's really cool. I love that that games was this connection medium that kind of kept everybody in touch
Yeah.
and together. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
While most of the team is in Boston now, like for a while, quite a few of it were scattered all over the country. So this was their way of keeping in touch.
That's amazing. So where are you in production right now? Is the game gonna ready to ship soon, or are you?
So right now we're actually in early access, which was not the original plan.
Mhm.
But COVID had a way of like throwing every original plan out the window. So right now, the first 3 chapters, which is about half the game, it's 6 chapters overall, are in early access, with chapter 4 dropping at the end of January. And we're kind of like releasing it. I guess the best way to say would be episodically, slowly. We basically hit a point where we had been using a lot of festivals like BostonFIG, like PAX, to like really get a lot of good play testing in and like have a lot of feedback. And then as things sort of tanked, we ran into this issue where like we were having play testers like kind of for free, or people to help us out to kind of get more feedback, and it just wasn't what we needed. So we basically were like, okay, um, the first half of this game is good. Like if we put it in our early access, there will be some people in the beginning who've been following us who will support us, and because they basically, at the end of the day, we were like, if somebody pays, even though early access, you're obviously paying less than full price, they will tell you everything that they like, everything that they don't like, every flaw, and like that is what we kind of needed to kind of keep ourselves moving along. So that's where we are right now. But luckily, we entered early access on Halloween, and the vast majority of the feedback has been good, which has been good to hear. But like we're slowly kind of rolling through the chapters to try and like get everything to where it needs to be before full launch, probably in the middle of next year.
Excellent. That's amazing. So six chapters into it sounds like the game's very narrative heavy, and like the narrative horror elements of it are big.
It's definitely has more narrative than a majority of Metroidvanias probably. We it was kind of one of the differentiating points when we kind of sat down, because also when I originally talked to the team, like they had this pitch forever of like this is kind of the setup, but then at a certain point they had a few ideas, and it was like we don't actually know what happens past a certain point. We've kind of been designing all this stuff, um, and we eventually landed on something that I think we're all pretty proud of, that avoids the one thing we wanted to avoid is Lovecraft is like showing up in everything these days.
It's
And
true.
I listen, I like Lovecraft, I like Cthulhu Mythos. We don't need another game where a squid monster shows up at the end and wrecks your day. So we wanted to make sure that what we were doing is our own thing and kind of more original than that. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to like ask you to spoil it, but I love the idea that it's not a Cthulhu monster.
Yeah. Appreciate it. No, that's
So what's next for the company? Just continuing to plug away on this. Other ideas in the works right now?
right now it's plugging away on this. There are other ideas way in the background, but this has been our baby for quite a few years, and we're trying to just get it to the point where it's um, the game we all kind of want it to be. So little by little,
Yeah,
longer than we would have liked, but it's happening.
that's awesome.
Awesome.
So, let's say someone wants to, start doing what you're doing, wants to break into the industry. What would you tell them? What advice, if someone's starting from scratch and they don't know the first thing about where to begin, what advice might you give them?
Um, so whatever you whatever aspect that you are most interested in, whether it's visuals, sound, that sort of thing, you should just be working on it in your own time all the time, and just finding ways to put your stuff out there. Like if you, just because our game's pixel art, there are millions and millions of places where you can post pixel art, get feedback, get people watching your stuff, that sort of thing. We get contacted by music and sound people in particular all the time, who are always working on their own things, trying to find games to score on. Like you're going to get a lot of no's, because generally, I would say that a lot of teams kind of start with a core group of people who are kind of working together, and then only bring others on when it's kind of necessary. But I would say the two biggest things would be whatever your specialty is, make sure you're always consistently working on it and putting it out and kind of trying to make um, friends in the industry. Like, if you're coming to an event like this, obviously talk to everybody who's there. They all have the same interests that you do, whether they're behind the booth or in front. Like I only well, these guys have been friends for a while and they all have very different uh, passions and technical skills. They all kind of coalesce, and then I eventually just joined because I knew a guy who knew a guy, and he was like, "Oh, I like a lot of the stuff that you're putting out." So whatever your kind of angle on it is, that's what you should be doing. If you want to score indie games, you should be pushing your music out there as much as possible without driving people crazy. So, yeah, which is like a very blanket answer, but there's no
No, I
like
think it's
there's
really
so many
great
different
advice.
paths.
Yeah, I think especially when if you're a writer and you're trying to become a games writer, then I know that that path can be really, really hard for people where they think like, oh, there's only like four jobs in like in the
Uh,
entire industry. So,
well,
um,
so I was gonna say the one thing I would say, it's not sexy, but something that generally also helps, like particularly on the writing side, is if a lot of games struggle with like the quick pitch, like what is their game, that sort of thing. If
mhm.
you get like minor things helping people with their marketing writing, you can eventually use that to kind of not weasel, but get into the other side if that's what you're interested in. But wherever you can put your foot in.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Like it's one of the things that I think indies forget a lot of the time is that if you're not marketing your game, you're not telling the story to people about why your game is important,
Yeah.
and that if they don't know why your game is important, they're never going to play it. So you got to story tell not just in your game, but about your game and the process of your game too. So it's a great point.
Yeah, no, it's a skill. The more you have to, you should always be pitching your own stuff because you'll eventually get better at actually getting the point across of why is the thing you're working on awesome and why should somebody care. So
Absolutely. Yeah, makes tons of sense. Okay, so plugs. Where can people find out more about Depths of Sanity and about Bomb Shelter Games and what you're working on?
for finding out about Depths of Sanity right now, best place is on Steam, just Depths of Sanity on Steam. You can also check us out at Bomb Shelter on Twitter, where we're usually posting our most updates. It also has the links to our Discord and all that good stuff where you can kind of follow what we're up to.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
taking the time and chatting with me.
I appreciate you chatting.
And for those of you watching at home, stick around for more indie interviews.